Blog Talk Radio.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to the calling hours on Horror Society Radio. Once again, it is your host, the Dedman, Michael Jones. And as a special treat, one of our other hosts from our brand new show on Horror Society Radio, I have Chris McGibbon of Creepshow Radio with us. Chris, tell everyone hello.
Hello.
Well, I'm glad you decided to join me tonight. I just think it brings more bang to the buck.
Well, you're reviewing Night of the Demons, and well, you know, hello.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't mind being around for the whole show, you know.
No. I plan on being around for the whole thing. I'm just saying, I read that and I was like, ooh.
Yes, for those of you that don't know, that I think that may be Chris's favorite movie. I mean, I'm not 100% on that, but
it's like second favorite right now. Like my top five kind of rotates. It's up there.
And for those of you that did not know, we'll go into detail on this when we get to the DVD review, but Chris was involved in some of the behind-the-scenes and the making of that Blu-ray, so I'm sure we'll have some interesting stories there.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably have a blast.
Well, to let everyone know, since we're just chitting and chatting about a little bit of everything on the side here, our guests tonight will be some interesting people. One guy in particular that I've known for about 6 years, that is a filmmaker by the name of Mike O'Mahony. I interviewed this guy back in 2009 for Horror Society. He's directed several features and shorts. Got to start with Deadly Detour. Did the fantastic Sloppy the Psychotic, which I still laugh every time I watch it, but it's got a power about it. IBS, and the soon-to-be coming out A Dark Place Inside. Also joining him this evening will be his soon-to-be future cohort. He is a fellow director, producer, actor, and professional wrestling manager. His name is Rob Dimension. These two gentlemen will be teaming up to be working on an interesting project that we'll have them talk about here. So it's going to be a good evening this evening. We're going to do a special DVD giveaway around 8:20. Tonight it will be a musical clue. So you will hear a song, which is not part of our Metal Blade Spotlight, by the way. Our Metal Blade Spotlight tonight will be Monte Pittman and his new album. So those of you that are into more of the power metal side of metal, I think you will enjoy that. So we'll have our guests on about the 8:30 time, and I think the first thing we should break into is the news. And I'm kind of glad Chris called in, because the minute I saw this first news item, I was like, I got to talk to Chris about this. Chris, Have you heard? Charles Man's Wizard Studios unveils their first films.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't going to go into the pornography yet. It's a little early in the show. Children might still be listening.
Right.
But For those who haven't heard, my source is Fangoria.com on this. Charles Band of Full Moon Features and Wizards Video has relaunched the Wizard name in the interest of acquiring and distributing the work of independent genre filmmakers via on-demand site Full Moon Streaming. They announced their latest film last month, but they want to reveal their first titles for the brand new Wizard Studios. And what we've got so far, according to the press release, is Vampy, directed by Ming Ballard. They're expecting a street date of Valentine's Day on that one. Virginia Obscura by Toby Osborne. They're looking at the 21st for that one, February 21st. I think I'm pronouncing this one right. Villanelle by Rick Laprade, and they're saying that one will be on the 28th. Now, for those of us that are old-school horror fans like Chris and I, Wizard brings up a ton of memories and a ton of titles. What are your thoughts on them bringing back Wizard, Chris? And do you hope to see a retro release due to this?
Well, Wizard already had their retro releases with the VHS tapes that they quote unquote found in a warehouse that they've been selling for the last it's been a year now. I got to give credit where credit is due. Charles Band is ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. He's the only guy who started doing exclusive titles available to websites. That was kind of his thing. With Full Moon Direct, you could only get certain films from the site. He's also the first one to start releasing stuff exclusively to streaming content, which is probably the next wave that fans are going to be looking at to get their movies. Streaming is a big thing, something that studios are pushing more than physical medium now. It's a lot cheaper for them to produce streaming media than it is for a physical disc, and it also is quicker. You buy the movie from the privacy of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere, and you're able to watch it whenever, wherever, once you click that buy button, depending on what you're using. As far as Wizard Video making a comeback, it's the funny thing is it's interesting that he's choosing to do that, not just release these as like Full Moon films. I don't know if he feels that Wizard has more clout as a name because of the memories us horror fans had of these wonderful big box VHS tapes that used to line the video store shelves back in the day, or that he just feels like that these movies might be of a certain quality that they belong on that label. I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Well, see, and that's why I brought that up. When you stop and think about it, people from our generation, the VHS generation, we grew up on those big boxes and a lot of the titles that came from it. And you kind of hit on it in your comment when you said, could it be for the nostalgia factor? As much as we love companies, like Synapse and Screen Factory and stuff like that, why not? Retro is always going to be in. This could be an opportunity to see something new, not something new, but something good, because I'm sure there are plenty of titles in Wizard's video catalog that we haven't seen on DVD or Blu-ray. So,
well, the funny part is,
keeping an eye on.
Yeah, the funny part is, or the ironic part is, maybe more than anything, a lot of those titles Charles Band still doesn't own. Like, let's just put this on the table. He doesn't own Zombie-Thon. That's actually a title that went to MGM. He doesn't own Necropolis, same thing, MGM. All those Empire Pictures that he used to have, those are all MGM titles now. They have a huge chunk of the Wizard Video library. And films like Zombie. Zombie was released on one of those big box VHS that they were quote-unquote found. He obviously doesn't own that film anymore. Zombie Lake, Virgin Among the Living Dead, Oasis, all these European zombie films that he does, or horror films that he doesn't actually own anymore. So I don't see that he's going to start putting retro stuff out on the new label. He already actually has a thing. It's called Grindhouse Flicks, I believe it is, that they started, where you can get a majority of the Wizard Video films on there. It's like a streaming service as well. I think it's a monthly or it's like a yearly cost. And both services are very low costing. I think Full Moon streaming is like $56 a year or something like that, which is pretty good considering Netflix is $8 a month, which is, obviously a little bit more than $8 a year if you just do the streaming. So if you're just looking to watch full moon titles, I guess that's the way to go. But I don't know. I like I said, I have to give credit where credit is due. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I've never made that a secret to anybody. I think he does kind of take advantage of situations from time to time, and I don't appreciate the disregard he has for the fans. Well, I don't want to. I don't know if he's listening. He might like you guys. I don't want to carry my. I don't want to carry my bad blood.
Our shows are opinion. They're going to make movies we like. They're going to make movies we don't like. They're going to make decisions we like and we don't like. I mean, it's a back and forth in the genre.
Yeah.
So I mean,
well, the funny
not like
thing
we're sitting here saying kill Charles Band.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, it's not that I'm saying I don't like his older films. I don't like anything really that he's produced recently. But I don't like the way that he lies to people. I guess that's the best way I can put it. He's very dishonest to fans. Again, those boxes of Wizard videotapes that he quote unquote found, and I'm sure there were people that might have believed him. There were people that bought them just to get like a copy of the tape because they had the original release to like compare them side by side. So regardless if even the people who doubted still dropped some money down to find out if this was true or not, because he took kind of advantage of the VHS boom and the collectors, wanted to collect these tapes and paying all kinds of money. He saw an opportunity and took it. I mean, he's a businessman first and foremost, and I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, in order for him to legally sell some of these movies, or to sell the tapes, rather, they had to be quote-unquote found. And that's what happened with the Puppet Master box sets, that he found a box in a warehouse that lasted for 6 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that was a box set that was like a $300 box set on eBay at one point. And then all of a sudden he finds them and starts selling them for $100, and when you bought them, they were obvious reprints. The quality of the paper wasn't the same as the original set. The discs themselves had a different label face, which was a dead giveaway. You know what I mean? Like, there was stuff like that you could tell he had just gone out and basically reprinted these and kind of lied to everybody. But at that point, I was like, well, whatever. I have the set. I don't care. I paid $100 instead of $300 for them. At the same time, it's just, it's not. I just don't appreciate the dishonesty, I guess.
I mean, I feel you on it, and we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see where he goes from there.
Yeah, definitely. And this has nothing to do with his newest thing. This is obviously all straightforward, but he's not claiming these are lost 80s movies or something to try to get the interest up. He's just, so we'll see what happens. The movies sound relatively interesting, so.
Indeed. Now, the second bit's a bit of TV news, and one of my all-time favorite vampire movies is being made into a TV series. I think we all know. We're talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. Mm-hmm. It's got a premiere date, a trailer, artwork, and all that. The From Dusk Till Dawn series will air on Tuesday, March 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the El Rey Network. It is a 10-episode series so far that is being produced in association with Factory Made Ventures and created and executive produced by network founder and filmmaker Robert Rodriguez. And from everything I've been reading about this, basically it's going to be an expanded retelling of the original movie. You're going to have, of course, Seth Gecko, and in the article I had, it gave the last names of the actors, but not the first names. Catrano is the last name of the guy playing Seth. Richard Gecko is being played by Holtz. I feel so bad for not getting the first names on this. Earl McGraw, Freddie Gonzalez. Now, some of the other co-stars include Wilmer Valderrama as the enigmatic crime lord Carlos, Madison Davenport as Kate Fuller, Brendan Suhu as Scott Fuller, Adrienne Palicki as Vanessa Stiles, Jake Busey as Professor Aidan Tanner, Lane Garrison as Pete, and Eiza Gonzalez as Santanico Pandemonium. So basically, from what I've read, they're looking to deepen the tone and expand the storyline of the first film, add new characters and backstories, and explore the Mesoamerican mythology behind the creatures inside the club. Now, when it first came out, I thought it was a great, shocking movie because when they first aired the commercials, you had no idea it was a vampire movie. And we've had 2 subpar sequels for the film, but now we're starting to get a TV show, and it's starting to become more commonplace now for genre favorite films of ours to be starting to be made into TV series. What are your thoughts, Chris, on a From Dusk Till Dawn series, and how far do you think they can take it?
Well, the thing about From Dusk Till Dawn that was a surprise was that it was a vampire film. I mean, a lot of people, even the advertising and whatnot, didn't really let on that you were walking into a half action, half horror film. That's basically what it is. The first half is action, the second half is horror. I even remember wanting to buy it as a kid when it came out on VHS, and my mother questioning it, you want to buy that? Because it didn't look like a horror movie. She didn't understand why I was buying what looked like an action movie. But, of course, I had seen it already and I wanted it. I love the movie. I think the movie was a real nice surprise in a lot of ways. It was very fun, and I was really young when that came out. I think I was 11 or 12 when I first saw it. So I didn't understand a lot of what was going on in the movie, but I understood that I liked it. It's a TV show is just to me it seems like in a way I don't know, it's better than doing another sequel, I suppose, considering the sequels weren't really that great. But at the same time, I'm kind of worried on how downplayed the violence is going to be, because that was one of the things about From Dusk Till Dawn that really makes it stand out, is its over-the-top violence. Of course, the gratuitous nudity, the language, some of the lines in the film. I think on a TV network it might seem a little watered down. But, I saw the trailer. It looks interesting. I'm really curious to find out how they're going to tackle the story, considering one of the characters that's in the show is dead. He dies in the movie, so if this is taking place after the movie, they're going to have to essentially rewrite or redo, the last half of the movie, so we understand that, maybe that never happened, or if they're trying to tell us this is the events that happened in between the time that the Gecko brothers and the family get to the Titty Twister, that might be kind of stretching it if they want to go for a couple seasons. So I guess we'll see what happens.
It'll be interesting to see. Excuse me, I don't know a lot about the El Rey network, but, we could wind up being pleasantly surprised. This could be, for all we know, this could wind up being a little bit more of a higher standard than even The Walking Dead is. We'll have to see.
Right.
But I'm not, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's going to be hard. Cheech has to be in there somewhere, or else it's not From Dusk Till Dawn to me, but
right.
We'll see what happens. Now, our last bit of news before we get to our DVD giveaway and our Metal Blade Spotlight is, and we'll stick in TV for this. Now, I never really read the comic, but I know a lot of people that are into it. And I'm getting this news that NBC is putting together a pilot for DC Supernatural Detective Constantine. It's been greenlit by NBC. It's going to be a supernatural detective thriller. There was a film made back in 2005 starring Keanu Reeves, but as with most Keanu Reeves films, it's either hit or miss, and I found it to miss. It's based on the character of John Constantine. It has a script commitment with penalty and is written and executive produced by The Mentalist, executive producer Daniel Cerrone and David S. Goyer. With DC trying to push everything for the Superman versus Batman movie, a Justice League movie, what are your thoughts on a Constantine TV show? Do you think it could work? Do you know anything about the character?
I think when it comes to comic book adaptations, honestly, a TV show is a better idea than a movie. TV show, you have the open area and space to create the universe and create specific scenarios from the comic books in great detail, whereas in a movie, you might be able to drop a hint here and there, or you have to basically just introduce the character and build an original story around that character, and because the audience knows them from the comic book, they know how they are. Almost like the first Hulk film, there was nothing in the comic books, there was an introductory film. There was nothing none of those situations specifically came from the original comic books. But the show really didn't have that going for it either. The original show from the 70s and 80s. It's not like they lifted stuff out of the comics for the show. They just every episode it was him going somewhere, hulking out, and saving the day, and then leaving. But TV shows of course have changed substantially in the last even few years. I would even say there's a new there's sort of a new kind of weight that comes with a television show, more so now than with a film, because you end up having to, hold up against stuff like The Walking Dead, Mad Men, stuff that's making it onto cable TV network that back in the day never would have. It would have been like an HBO special, and maybe that would have been the end of it. In the 90s, Baywatch was a hit show. Like, put that into perspective and compare that to now,
Sure. Look at Ren and Stimpy back on Nickelodeon back in the day. You never play Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon now.
Absolutely not. No, they play it on Adult Swim, I think. But it's I never actually saw the Constantine movie. I'm not a big Keanu Reeves fan, so I spent a majority of my time avoiding the stuff that he does. So I can't say whether or not I would be offended if they made a TV series out of it. I mean, as far as the comic book goes, I just think it's a better platform for a comic book as TV. While there are some really great comic book movies and stuff like The Avengers that Joss Whedon, who was a big geek essentially, wrote and directed, that was a 2.5-hour movie as well. I mean, that wasn't a short, movie. I mean, Spider-Man was an hour and 45 minutes on the first film. And as those films progressed, they just kept getting longer and longer, and it was just kind of like trying to squeeze so much into a 2-hour movie, introducing villains and characters and trying to get, all this other stuff out of the way. It just seems like a TV show is a better platform for that because you have the time to spread things out. You can go from episode to episode and introducing characters, bringing a villain, giving a villain like, for instance, Venom in Spider-Man 3 longer than 45 minutes of screen time. Venom is one of the biggest villains in the Spider-Man universe who dies in that movie. He lives and dies in Part 3 in basically an hour time span, which is of course, nobody was happy about that. I'm not even a big Spider-Man fan, and I was unhappy about that. So I think it's a better platform. Yeah, I think it's a better platform. I think they'll do a better job with the TV show with Constantine than they did with the movie and getting whoa in the movie. You know what I mean?
Well,
that was my Keanu Reeves impression.
You got to shoot your gun up in the air too.
But,
yeah. That's the end of our news for the evening. So we're going to get to the DVD giveaway, and this evening we're giving away, I feel, a pretty cool prize. Our good friends over at Screen Factory were kind enough to send an extra Blu-ray copy of Claude Kinski in Crawl Space. And then we also have a Blu-ray copy of Eve of Destruction. Now, in order to win this evening, we're going to do something a little bit different. People texting in and stuff, that's always fun, but I want to see how interactive we can get. I'm going to play a song here in a minute, and it's going to help if you're a wrestling fan. In fact, it's going to help if you're an old-school wrestling fan. One of our guests tonight, Rob Dimension, in addition to doing his film work and the other things that he does, is also a pro wrestling manager. His best friend is a pro wrestler. And if you can tell me what wrestler uses this song, the prize pack is yours. You can call in at 1-347-237-5099, and we'll be back in 3.5 minutes to do our Metal Blade Spotlight and then interview Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony.
Frustration kept away from
And once again, that was our contest song. If you can tell me what old school wrestler that was and is managed by the one and only Rob Dimension, you can win the 2 DVD Blu-rays tonight of Crawl Space and Eve of Destruction from Scream Factory, our good friends out there on the West Coast. You have any idea, Chris? I don't want you to say it if you know, but I don't know if you're a wrestling fan or not. So
I am not, and I have not a clue. If it was Todd, he'd be all over this, but
he might. I didn't even think about that. I remember
he's a
Todd
big wrestling fan.
I talked wrestling, so hopefully we'll get some good contest winner. We'll get a good contest winner out of this. Now, once again, to let everyone know, Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony will be calling in a few moments. Just to give you a little bit of background info, Rob Dimension, of course, is a writer, director, producer, actor, and professional wrestling manager. He currently runs 2 podcasts, the Extreme Odd Couple podcast with a certain somebody who I can't mention. It would give away the surprise. And Monster Mania Radio with horror convention promoter Dave Hagen. Rob was also the creator of the television series Late Night at the Horror Hotel and is currently working on Dimension's Monster Chronicles. And as I had mentioned before, he's been a mainstay in the world of professional wrestling for nearly 13 years, getting a start as a promoter for the Premier Wrestling Federation, a Pennsylvania-based wrestling organization. Rob has been all over the world with his wrestling, performing in front of over 10,000 fans on several occasions. And, of course, our other guest will be filmmaker extraordinaire Mike O'Mahony. He handles cinematography, writing, directing, acting, producing, effects, editing, just about everything else you can do on a set. Now, before we have these two come on, Chris, what do you know about these two gentlemen?
Talk about putting somebody on the spot. Good Lord. You know what? I'll be fuck it. I've never heard of them. I don't know much about any of them, to be honest. I haven't followed them. So this is going to be a first for me.
Oh, I think you're going to have fun. And in fact, it looks like one of the gentlemen is calling in now.
Oh, good.
This is the Dedman on Horror Society Radio, who is joining us.
What's up, Mike?
What's going on, man? Who have I got with me?
This is Mike O'Mahony.
Mike, what's up, brother?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I've got a fellow co-host, Chris McGibbon, on this evening. He's the host of one of the other shows on Horror Society Radio, Creepshow Radio.
What's up,
Quite
Chris?
the horror aficionado.
What's happening?
Oh, it looks like I think Rob is joining us. Is that you, Rob?
Hey, guys, what's up? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
All right, great. How's it going?
Good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my co-host this evening is Chris McGibbon, fellow podcast extraordinaire, co-hosting with me. I also have Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony. We will be talking about their upcoming project here in a little bit. But before we get to that, guys, why don't you say hello to everybody and tell us how you got involved in the horror industry.
Go ahead, Mike. You go first, buddy.
Oh, put me on the spot? All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Mike O'Mahony, the guy behind Maniac Films, and I began in filmmaking, I think, in 2009, and since then have done about 4 feature films, 4 shorts, soon to be 5 with Rob. And I was just basically a horror fanboy that saw enough movies and said, you know what, I'm going to take a shot at this and see if I can make my own. And here I am.
Agreed. All right.
My name is Rob. Yeah, my name is Rob Dimension. I also am a lifelong horror fan, and I started out really reviewing horror movies in my spare time. And the opportunity, came about where we were doing Late Night at the Horror Hotel, which was like a horror hosting show. And we had we had a good amount of success with that. And it kind of, you kind of get the bug, where you're like, oh, I want to make more, I want to create more. And I went through a real nasty bout of depression. And I wrote No Clowning Around, which was my first short that I wrote. And it just kind of like snowballed from there. Mumbles the Clown ended up getting picked up by Dynamite Comics and was in the Living Corpse Haunted issue that was out this past summer. So that gave me a little bit more notoriety. And No Clowning Around won a couple awards. It won at the Macabre Faire Film Festival. And my second short film, Baggage, has 4 nominations at the upcoming Macabre Film Festival, which is this coming weekend up in Rhode Island, or Long Island.
Yes, I was one of the judges for said contest. I watched Baggage. While I can't really say anything because judging is not out yet, I will say that I certainly enjoyed Baggage.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Now, how did the two of you come together? Because I'll point out similarities between you two here in a minute, but I'm wondering, what brought, for those of you that don't know a lot about Mike, I interviewed Mike way back in 2009 for Horror Society. He was working at that particular time, he was working on a project called Deadly Detour, and I interviewed him about it. And I found it to be a really interesting film. I think his style is very interesting. As a matter of fact, he reminds me a lot of Olaf Ittenbach, who was the director of The Burning Moon, which is, a favorite film of mine. But Mike, when did you come up with the idea to work with Rob on the film? And since Rob just came, his phone dropped off. Rob, I was asking
that was
Mike,
me that dropped off.
Am I still on?
Yeah, you guys are both still on.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so Mike, how did you get involved with Rob? And Rob, what drew your attention to Mike?
I think Rob and I were both entered. I think it was actually the Macabre Faire Fest that he mentioned before, or I forget exactly, but there was an online contest, and we were both kind of award winners for movies. And I got in touch with him because I was in there for Sloppy the Psychotic, and he was in there for No Clowning Around. And I was like, oh, man, another clown guy. And we just kind of chatted online a bit, and I had met him at a con, sort of stayed in touch, and then a role came up in my new movie, A Dark Place Inside, and I had asked him to do it. And through there, we just kind of kept chatting and stayed in touch and talked about some ideas we wanted to possibly do in the future.
Yeah,
I
think that's really it. It's funny when we worked together on Mike's movie, we kind of had some conversations, and we discovered that our careers are kind of almost parallel. Like, we're kind of channeling the same type of creative energy, I guess you could say, where we each did a clown movie, and then with Baggage and A Dark Place Inside. Both of those movies kind of, even though they're completely different, they are, have definitely have some themes that are the same. And when I was working with him, he asked me to be this really horrible character, and he was like, "Hey, if you don't want to do it, I understand." I was like, "No, I totally, want to check it out." And everyone else in the room had just like this look of disgust on their face during one of the scenes, and there he is behind the camera smiling, and I was like, "Oh man, we got to work together." And I sent him an idea for this new film, Rabbit Hole, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm in. It's it's different. It's something that isn't normally something that he would do." I think we're both. I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think that we're both fans of the gritty grindhouse midnight movie type of films, and I think that this will fit in there pretty nicely. I guess it's going to be our entry into that, subgenre field that there is.
Now, Chris and I, are very much old school fans. We like that grindhouse, that gritty style of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And, I was talking about the parallels between you two, and you brought up Mumbles, and, of course, Mike did, Sloppy the Psychotic. And the first thing I thought of when we decided to do the interview was, I was like, great, both of these guys have done clown movies. But they're good. I mean, it's like, clowns are one of people's most basic fears. What? You have to be of a certain mindset to even work with clowns to begin with, I guess, as content. But looking at the two films together, it's a very your visual styles are very much the same. It's very striking how similar you two are. What is it that you guys hope to do by teaming together? I mean, Mike, of course, is very much on the extreme end. The things I've seen from you, Rob, you're definitely on the extreme end as well. Where do you see that partnership going from here? Past rabbit hole.
I don't know if we really. I mean, I don't think that we together have thought much about like where we're going to go. I think that it was more like, hey, we have this project. Are you interested? Yeah, I'm interested. Let's kind of do something together and see where it takes us. When you collaborate with someone, I've made it a point to collaborate with several different people, so I can kind of change up my style where it's not necessarily the same.
Right.
And I think that by collaborating with Mike, this will allow us to do something that's different for both of us, and will allow us to get better. That's at least my main goal is I always want to get better. I always want to make something new, and I think that in particular, like probably two characters from this new film will be people will really I guess there'll be some sort of fandom for those characters because they are really like just out in left field. But I think that if it works good and our partnership is really strong, then I would, love to be able to work with Mike again, obviously. I would, we've been talking about other projects. It's a matter of, you got to test the waters out.
Yeah, I haven't thought too much about. Oh, God.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I haven't thought too much about the future, just kind of focusing on this one project, and I haven't really partnered with many people before besides writing and, a little help on set and stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to see, how about this is all going to turn out. This is kind of new territory for me.
Now, with we had we touched on Grindhouse and things like that. I had mentioned Chris, my co-host, and I are really into the older, a little bit more of the extreme type stuff and stuff like that. Do you feel like you look at movies like Machete and Machete Kills and Grindhouse and stuff like that? Do you guys feel like that Grindhouse style of movie is still relevant in today's society?
Yeah, I don't know. There's ones like the Machete and the flicks like that. They're kind of nods to the older movies, but I think at the same time they're kind of poking fun at them.
Right.
I guess it's still going somewhat strong, but very different though.
Yeah, I believe that on the independent level that they are kind of. I think more people on the independent level try to pay homage and try and do that more often than people that are making Hollywood movies. I do like Planet Terror. I like that one quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I love that one as well.
Chris, anytime if you have a question, please jump in.
Oh no, I'm just listening. I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go into both Mike and Rob. I'm going to go into some of the other stuff in your careers before we really get in the rabbit hole. Excuse me, Rob. Let me start with you.
Sure.
Your career, just looking over the stuff that you've done, I'm absolutely amazed. It's fun to see the things that you've done, and anyone that listens to my show and anyone that knows me knows, of course, that I am a huge pro wrestling fan, and of course, you've been a manager in the industry for over at least a dozen years that I can track back.
Yeah.
How did you initially get involved with pro wrestling, and how did you channel your experiences with it into making film, in particular horror films?
When I had a retail store at a comic book shop here in my hometown of Ambler, Pennsylvania, and if you were a fan of Pro Wrestling Illustrated printed their magazines. Their offices were literally 5 blocks down the road. And Bill Apter, who did the Apter mags, like The Wrestler and Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all these back in the 70s and 80s, he was even involved with the National Wrestling Alliance. He came into the store one day and we talked and we hit it off. He started coming in at lunchtime. And I said, at the time I was carrying some wrestling videos. This has got to be like back in like 1999 probably. And I said, is there anyone local? And maybe 2000. And he said, I have a friend of mine, Steve Carino, who has this company called PWF. They just started up in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And so we ended up talking, and after a little bit of time, we ended up partnering up. And it really was like I guess it was pushed into a fast track. But I've been a wrestling fan for my entire life. And I went and, Steve trained me because I was instantly I want to get involved. And then I went on to work for Off of the Wild Samoan, and that gave me a great opportunity. I was able to write some of their TV. We were one of the only independent companies that had live TV in the country. So I was able to write some of their TV. I was able to work. Offa gave me a lot of opportunities. He allowed me to work with WWE guys that were coming in and guys that were going to WWE to kind of groom them, or work safely with guys that were, coming in for a weekend. So, I had a lot of experience with Rosie and Rikishi and Batista and, a ton of guys that working at PWF, guys like Daniel Bryan worked for us, CM Punk worked for us, Samoa Joe, Homicide, just tons and tons of guys, Matt Stryker, Jack Victory, New Jack. There's a ton of guys that we had on our show. And we had TV. Right. We had a TV deal with Channel 48, which is out of Philadelphia. We had TV for 2 years. So it really, when I say it was a fast track, I went from not being involved to being involved and managing, and, you kind of get the bug. And it was a lot of fun. I was a bad guy, a heel manager for my entire career. I really don't think I ever had a period where I was a good guy, and I think I'm the complete opposite of that character.
Right.
And, I just found that once I was getting, if you're not involved, you don't know. It's a lot of sit and wait. You get there at 2 o'clock, and the show's not until 8 o'clock. You're sitting there, you're waiting, you're going over the matches and stuff like that. And then, you're done at 11 o'clock, and you leave, so it's a full day. And after a while, it kind of wears on you. And I don't think managers are represented as well as they used to be back in the 80s. It's quite a bit different now. So I decided I wanted to do this horror show, and once I did that, then I started acting. I was on the Chainsaw Sally show. I had done another movie called Garden of Eden by Kevin Kangas. It's not out yet. I had done another movie called Demon Hunters. I had done some other work. And the time came where I just wanted to make my own film. So I partnered up with this guy named Matthew Bird, who I'd known in wrestling. He was a ring announcer. And he had done some shorts. I'd done a short movie with him. And I said, hey, here's my script for, No Clowning Around. What do you think? And he was like, holy shit, it's completely different than, anything else I've done before. I'm interested. And we put it together, and the rest is history.
Which do you find more challenging, wrestling or filmmaking?
Oh, filmmaking. Wrestling is very, it's very easy. When you're a bad guy, it's so easy to get a response from people. After doing it for so long, especially when I do work with Steve. I've worked with Steve so much, and we traveled all over the place. We do things. We've been with each other long enough where we know what to do. We do this weird hug thing at the beginning, where the hug, with a heel hug, hugs the bad guy wrestler, and it goes entirely too long where people start to feel uncomfortable, and they throw stuff, and it's so easy. You can say who sucks now, and it's automatically they automatically are going to say you do. It's just the same stuff over and over. But filmmaking allows you to express any avenue that you want. For baggage, I was able to express. At the time, I was watching a lot of early David Lynch. I was watching a lot of Alfred Hitchcock. So I had written and wrote this movie, and I had a certain design idea. I wanted the camera always moving. I wanted the camera over the character's back the whole time. I wanted you to feel claustrophobic. So it was different than my first one, and now here we are on to our third one, and this one will be different. So I definitely think that filmmaking is entirely more difficult. I feel so nervous before we start filmmaking, before we start making a movie, that you feel pressure and you want to succeed, and it's kind of invigorating, that you're getting so excited and stuff. So but definitely filmmaking.
Huh. Now, Mike, with you, like you had said, you had started filmmaking in 2009, and I've had the opportunity to watch the trailer for A Dark Place Inside. I watched the short Don't Try This at Home. I've done, you've read the reviews I did for IBS and Sloppy the Psychotic, which I thought were great films too. Now, for you, unlike most people that just, that jump into doing film, you didn't just jump into being a director. I mean, you do cinematography, writing, directing, acting, producing, effects, editing. I mean, you name it, you do it.
Okay.
Did you initially find that to be very intimidating when you first started? And when you look at it now, is it almost just second nature to you just to do all those things?
Yeah, that wasn't the plan at first. In doing Deadly Detour, my first movie, I had a cinematographer, I had an editor, I had someone that was supposed to do special effects, and then one by one, shit falls through for whatever reason, so it's like, all right, I'm the camera guy now. Okay, I'm doing the special effects now. Okay, I got to do this now. And at first it was overwhelming, doing it all and not really knowing what the hell I was doing, but with each one, you learn a bit more and kind of develop your style a bit, and now it's to the point where, I want to score the movie, I want to edit the movie, I just kind of want to do more and more with each one. So, yeah, at first it was a pain, and now it's just like, oh, what else can I get my hands on? What else can I do to this movie? And I don't know, maybe I'm a control freak.
I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've done producing, I've done acting, I've done effects, so I mean, I understand how it is to wear several hats on set. Now, one of the things that and you guys even posted on the Maniac Films Facebook page, when I watched Don't Try This at Home, you went on there and were like, do not watch with sensitive people, not safe for work, if you're offended by cannibalism, gratuitous sex. A lot of filmmakers initially in the beginning will try to do something extremely hardcore to draw people's attention. You did that, but not only did you do it, but you have continued to, in my opinion, I would say raise the bar each time that you've gone out. What made you decide to continue with, the hardcore horror? A lot of filmmakers want to get their stuff out there and might be more willing to do something a little softer to get noticed. What are your thoughts on stuff like that?
Well, I was always a fan of the hard shit. I don't know how hard, but growing up, movies like Dead Alive and I Spit on Your Grave and Texas Chainsaw and stuff like that. That's the stuff I liked. So when making the first couple movies, it's like, all right, what do all those movies have? A lot of blood, a lot of gore, some tits, and all right, I got those things and I got a movie. With the first one, that's pretty much all I had. And then with Sloppy, it's like, all right, that was pretty good. We got a little bit of attention. A couple people were offended by some things. How can I offend the rest of the people? So it's like, all right, we can kill a bunch of kids at a birthday party with Killer Clown and all this stuff. And then IBS, it's, more or less trying to raise the bar slightly more. But with A Dark Place Inside, while that stuff is still in there, I think I focused a little more on the story and a little more on kind of getting my cinematography better and stuff like that. So I still want to keep the extreme element to it, but I kind of want to make it a little more, not legit, but a little more cinematic and a little looking better, a little more polished, I guess.
Right. Now, Rob, on several of your projects, you've worn several hats as well. You've co-directed, produced, executive produced, acted. What do you find to be the most challenging aspect of filmmaking, and which out of all of them, which do you find to be the most rewarding? Do you like seeing your name on there as the producer? Do you prefer acting, directing?
I think I like the writing the most. I don't think there's anything better than seeing what you write come to life. I think what I need to do more is I want to learn more about directing. I think that directing is so difficult. And I do really try and work better. I try and read a lot, try and watch a lot. Acting, most times I'm very much a method actor, so if the character, sadly, my two characters that I portrayed in my own two movies have been both miserable, so I'm usually miserable around that time. This next one, I'm not sure how well I'll be. It's something different that I haven't done before.
If you're a method actor in this next one, I'm staying the hell away from you on set.
But I definitely, I'd like to make a feature and then, kind of jump out of it and jump behind the camera quite a bit more. I'm really intrigued by creating shots, whether it's cinematography or whatever, it really is, but just getting something that looks, when you look at a frame, and you're setting up for a frame, like how can you make it look more interesting? I had an opportunity to work with Jeremiah Kipp, and I think that was extremely rewarding and a very, very valuable lesson for myself to be able to be with him we shot Baggage in like 7 days. So to be able to be with him, it was, really, really rewarding. I had a really good cinematographer, and a really good, director to be able to work with. So I'm a student of the game. I want to learn more about directing. That's the big thing. But writing is really, I love to write, whether it's, a blog or whether it's a movie or, whatever the case may be. I'm a big writer. I like to be creative.
Okay. Now, in 2012, you were on season 2 of the Chainsaw Sally show, and I've interviewed, both of the two great principals behind that. What can you tell me about working with Jimmy O and April, and do you see yourself returning for another appearance on the Chainsaw Sally show?
I went down there really with, first of all, they were fantastic. I've known Jimmy and April for quite a while. They're both fantastic people. And, I went down with an idea of the character that I wanted to be. And when I got there, I said to Jimmy, I was like, hey, what do you want? And I'm always intrigued by how people direct. And he said, just do it one time and we'll see where you're at. And so I acted with April, and he's like, I really like it. It's perfect. And I was like, okay. And they're really easy to work with. We shot for 2 days, and I have, some good memories from that. And I'd love to be able to go back. I think that, I really think the Chainsaw Sally show is a really good product, but I think that it needs to get more exposure. That's the hard thing. Like, that show probably could do well on what is that, Adult Swim. That's a show for Adult Swim. I also did the Gooligans, and that's another show that should definitely be on Adult Swim. These guys they do skits. It's real creative, man. There's tons of stuff that's out there. It's so crazy.
Now, Mike, of course, Deadly Detour, and then I remember when you contacted me about Sloppy the Psychotic when it came out. And I got it, and I watched it, and one of the actresses that's in that film I was very taken with, and what I mean is, yes, she's a beautiful woman, but she stood out to me in the cast. Tell me a little bit about how you met Lauren Ojeda and how she became involved with your projects.
Originally, the movie after Deadly Detour I was going to do was a movie called Ultraviolence that never came to fruition. And during casting, she was one of the girls that auditioned, and eventually, after seeing everyone, we had her to be the co-star in that movie. But the movie was kind of bigger than I was at the time. I couldn't quite handle it, so I had to call it off at the last minute. So she and I had stayed in touch, and when I was doing Sloppy, I brought her in for a little role in that. And just like you, I thought she did really well. She's really easy to get along with. Since then we've gone on to become very good friends. So I brought her back for IBS, and I gave her kind of the co-star part that she should have had in the second movie that didn't happen. So again, She came in. She was better than we expected. Still very cool to get along with, all that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to use her again. So again, she's in a dark place inside. But unlike the other two, it's not a comedy, and it's not really ridiculous like Sloppy and IBS. So it kind of gave her a little more room to kind of show off her stuff. And if you liked her in the first two, I think you're really going to dig her in this one.
Well, I can't wait for that. Now, like what you had mentioned a little bit before, with Sloppy, the kid killing scene, IBS, just by what it's about. Were you surprised by the critical responses you got from the films? I mean, were you happy with how people viewed the grossness of IBS and just the sheer shock that Sloppy presented during the birthday sequence?
Yeah, for the most part, I was happy. They got the reactions I was aiming for. If you, Sloppy's out in stores, so that got kind of a wider market at the moment. IBS doesn't hit stores until March, so the people that know that got it from me or through, a convention or film festival or something like that. So the full IBS reaction hasn't come in yet. But yeah, I've been pretty happy. There was a couple instances with IBS where people were upset for like reasons I didn't understand. There was a conversation on an IBS support group, people calling us insensitive and hoping we catch IBS ourselves and all this other stuff. But most of the people see it for what it is. It's just an excuse to be ridiculous and funny, and most people seem to get it.
Are we going to see a sequel to Sloppy?
People have asked. I don't want to do it though because I'm sloppy and I want to stay behind the camera. But I doubt it at this point. At one point, a guy was really pressing me and he was offering to kind of help finance it, but no, I doubt you'll see a sequel to Sloppy.
Oh man, that's a shame because I really like that character. But now let me ask you both this because you've both done shorts and you've both done features. In terms of, production, of course, is shorter, scripts are shorter, things like that. But do you have a preference on whether you do shorts or if you do feature-length films? And, Mike, I'll let you answer that one first.
Definitely features. Shorts are fun, but for me, for the most part, they kind of just seem like practice. You're kind of limited with what you can do with them, where they're going. You can do Film Fest and you can do DVDs on your own, and that's about it. And not as many people get to see them. There's still a challenge, and there's still all the same elements in making a feature that there is in making a short. But for me, I just enjoy features more. It basically takes up a good 6-7 months of my time, and I don't know. I find it slightly more rewarding.
Rob, how about you?
I think because I started with shorts. It's funny. I was just talking to Mike about this last night. I was like, this might be my last short. I think it's time for me to jump into actually, writing a feature. I've acted in some, but I've never really been, as far as writing or anything else like that, I've never been involved with it. But I would like to. I do agree that a lot of people have said that I probably get more of my shorts seen more than anybody else because, I've been fortunate enough to work with Monster Mania and have both my films screened there. I'm real aggressive with getting the movies out there for people to see, so I'll submit them everywhere and, have them play at horror conventions and stuff like that. But I really would like to be able to at least, I would think I would feel more accomplished professionally if I had a feature with my name attached to it that, I could, at the end of the day, I could say I made these and then I made this and, I'm happy, But I definitely think that a feature is in the cards for me probably the end of 2013, if not 2014.
Excellent.
It's the end of 2013. You're running late.
All right.
Yeah, you are, actually. That's a valid
2014
point.
or 2015, that's what I should say.
Well, since you brought up conventions and movie festivals, everyone that I've had on the show that does these things have all kind of given different responses. So I'm interested to hear what you say about this. What is it like for you guys when you go to these film festivals and these conventions? Do you find that you have a lot of fans and followers that show up to these? What do you think of the reactions your projects get when you show them at these events? And that's for both of you.
Go ahead, Mike.
For the most part, it's been all positive. The first two movies we traveled the most with, all throughout the Midwest and up and down the East Coast, and for the most part, we've had a good reaction. And I noticed the ones that we would do 2 years in a row, the year we come back, people are like, oh, man, what do you have this year? What's going on? So it's been a positive reaction for the convention. Sometimes they're, a bit of a pain and, to get out and do them all, but we basically just go out and look to have a good time, and if a convention's a good party town or, a good time for us, we'll go back and do it again regardless of how profitable it is or how, all the business of the things. We just want to go out and have fun.
For me, I've been a mainstay at Monster Mania for several years, and being involved with Dave and doing the podcast really helped. I mean, the help that he's given me, I could never repay him back for. He has been a tremendous influence on helping me quite a bit, which is great because, when he's helping me expose my film to, 25,000 film, convention goers, it really makes an impact. And he's given me, good time slots when we showed no cloning around there. We had a full house. And when we did Baggage as part of their film festival. And I'm very much a salesman at heart, and I really love pushing my product. And, I'll show up at someone's barbecue, if they'll have me with a little screen and show my movies, I'm very much the do-it-yourself guy. I'll create posters and make T-shirts and, the DVDs and anything that I can make that would generate some sort of interest. There has to be, it's so hard, in today's world, if you are a self-distributor, you really have to push on, Twitter and on Facebook, and you have to do as many conventions as possible, and you have to push, you have to promote. We're getting ready to crowdfund for our next film, Rabbit Hole, and this weekend we're launching it on Friday, and this weekend I'll be at Macabre Fair, so I'll be promoting it there. Then I have a couple other things, and we'll be wrapping up at Monster Mania. So the week after Monster Mania we'll be done, but I'm hoping that people jump on it. We'll have a thing where people can sign up at the table. So I think I have 4 events during our crowdfunding that we'll be doing. So I can't imagine us not making our budget. So I don't know. I love conventions. I've done comic book conventions. I did a thing where last year I started drawing. I was an artist when I was in high school and I haven't done anything since. And I hung out with a lot of great artists, guys from the Living Corpse comic, and we did a comic book convention. I really wasn't selling anything. And the guy's like, I said, do you think I should start drawing? He goes, yeah, man, if you start drawing, you'll see a big difference. And we did a thing at Monster Mania where I said, if you come see me, I'll create you a mediocre Joker is what I called it. And I would draw a mediocre Joker. It wasn't great. It was just mediocre. And I think I put a sign out, and on Saturday I think I drew 98, and I stopped. I put the sign away. I was like, that's enough. I don't know how these artist guys do it. But it allowed, it was just some quirky thing that, had me sell 98 DVDs, for just that. But I sold other DVDs where people didn't want one, and, or some people would buy this, or they'd buy T-shirts and stuff. So, you just have to find the hook. I've been very fortunate where I have a good amount of supporters. And this last year in Baltimore for Monster Mania, I really felt like, I was getting some momentum. So it's awesome, man. It's great to see. It's very rewarding. It's rewarding when people come up and they say something positive. I had 5 different people get Mumbles the Clown tattoos. It's so weird, to see my face on their arms or on their ribs or on their shoulders and stuff. I'm very flattered. That's I sent them free T-shirts. I was like, I'm so sorry I ruined your body. What do you say? So I didn't ask them to do it. They just did it because they loved or connected with the character, and it's very rewarding, man. Very rewarding.
Well, since you brought it up, and it's been said several times, the project that the two of you are going to be working on together is called Rabbit Hole. What can you tell everyone about Rabbit Hole, and what is it, the Kickstarter or the? It's going to be. We're going to be crowdfunding on You'veBeenRobbedFilms.com. I've run two successful campaigns without using Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Sure, I would be seen more, but our budgets are so little that I don't know if it would really benefit us, especially with the risk that we may not make it. You lose a large percentage if you don't make it, and with Kickstarter, you don't even get the money. This way, my percentage is much less if I just use PayPal. And I'm getting a crowdfunding clinic or seminar on Sunday at Macabre Fair, and I'll talk about that. You have to do your homework. There's a million different crowdfunding sites out there, and you have to kind of look at the landscape and say, well, do I want to lose 8%? Do I want to lose 10%? Do I want to lose 3%? 3%, if that's all I'm going to lose, that's my best case scenario. So I think that we're attacking this the correct way as of right now. I just think that instead of me giving away 8%, I'd rather give away 3%. Now, as far as the movie goes, the movie is originally was an idea that I came up with last year. I was at the Macabre Fair Film Festival, actually, and they were going to do a film festival that was dedicated to short films based on holidays. And I had written this short called Happy Easter.
And I sent it out to a couple people, and every director that I sent it to was like, "Oh, it's pretty controversial. You know, you can't you can't do this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So I kind of set on the back burner, and I did Baggage, and I kept writing and doing other things. And I've written more story for Mumbles, and that got morphed in there, and everything else. And you know, I think it's based on it's what the story primarily is it's based on a young mother named Dottie who is not feeling well, and she goes to sleep. And when she wakes up, her little girl is missing. And her quest to find her daughter is really the true nightmare. So it deals with a lot of heavy stuff, man. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a story that questions your beliefs, you know, about religion, you know, your family values, about loss. So I'm really excited to do it. I can't wait.
Now, Mike, what is it about Rabbit Hole that intrigues you from your viewpoint?
It's kind of new territory for me. I thought that was kind of something I kind of wanted to dip my feet into. With my stuff, it's, you know, gore, humor, nudity, blah, blah, blah. But Rob kind of sent me a story. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of new. And, you know, kind of the fact that it was coming from Rob was the fact that was another reason why I was like, all right, I'll check this out. I don't know. It was part story, part Rob, and I saw his work ethic, and working with him was pretty easy. So I was like, you know what, there doesn't really seem to be a downside. Why don't I hop on this and see where it goes?
Now, is there any cast that you guys can announce, or are you holding that off until the Kickstarter, or what?
We actually are still casting for a few of the roles. I mean, I'll be involved as an actor. I'll be one of the main characters. Hopefully that doesn't make people not want to give money. But I think that we're casting, and as we go, what we're doing with the Kickstarter is if you donate as little as $10, that's where we're going to be our starting point. We're going to provide people with, you know, we're going to try and update as much as possible with a video blog and updates. So we'll announce it'll be only available to those people that donate. So they'll be able to get the inside scoop on people that are cast for roles at different things that are going on. You know, we have a lot of stuff planned, so we'll keep them, you know, involved. We have to build sets, so we'll give them a little bit behind the scenes for sets. People can actually donate and be in the movie. People can be associate producers. People can get sweatshirts, T-shirts, posters, artwork by me. They can come and have a pizza party with me and Mike and some of the cast and crew and watch the movie and see it before anyone else in the public sees it. There's tons and tons of stuff. We have a creative character where they'll be able to, we have an outline for a character. They can kind of create how the character looks and name the character. So we have lots of stuff in you know, set. So I mean, it's a short, and I think that Mike and myself have built enough of credibility where I don't know if it's obviously, I mean, because it's a short and we don't have an outrageous budget, we're not bringing anyone in from Hollywood. So it will be, you know,
right,
local people and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's going to really sway anyone's decision on whether or not to jump in or not. I think the perks alone are so good. You know, I'm really super excited about it.
Now, you had mentioned before social media, Twitter, Facebook, you know, everything that goes along with that. And, you know, both of you are certainly established. You both have your fan bases. How do you feel that social media both helps and hurts projects? And do you feel like social media sometimes overexposes what you guys try to do?
Do you want me to answer, Mike, or you want to go?
I'd love to hear both of you on that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I know I'll be somewhat quicker about it. Generally, I don't really care for social media, but I think for the things that independent filmmakers and writers and whoever do, it's almost, you know, it's crucial to have it. So, but yeah, I noticed there's a lot of overexposure, people announcing projects, making pages for things that are never going to happen. But I don't know. I guess the bottom line is you need to have it. It's a necessary evil, and I do my best to try to keep up with all of it.
I think that's really the key, is that you have to stay up on it. You know, if you do your research, if you make a page on Facebook, it actually gives you less people will see your posts the longer that your page is up. They want you to donate money to sell it. So if you make a page or something, no one's going to see it. The problem with Facebook is everyone's promoting something. So a lot of times your projects are lost. Obviously, you can't see all your friends' projects, so what they do is they pick and choose based on who you interact with the most. As far as Twitter goes, I've had more response from Twitter than I have from Facebook. I have better conversations on Facebook, but I seem to get more hits on my website via Twitter, I think, because you do see everyone that you follow on Twitter.
Right.
I can't tell you, like, in this day and age, if you're a director or a writer or anything, you need to have a website, you need to have a Twitter, you need to have a Facebook. It doesn't hurt you to have, all these other websites that are out there, Instagram, anything, you can keep people involved. The more that people are involved with your project, the better. But it is hard to get people's attention because, like I said, everyone's promoting something. Everyone's, selling something. So how do you stand out? You need to have, a little bit of a slick video, and, you need to be personal with people. People like to be involved, and they like to be on that level and never talk down to anyone. And you keep everyone involved. And I totally think that social media is extremely important. If it wasn't for social media, Kickstarter would be non-existent because people would never know how to get there. So,
right.
As an example, so it's just finding the right hook. It's building a fan base. And, I mean, the reason why Mike and myself, one reason why we are working together is because it has to be a win-win situation. So we're hoping that we expose, each other's fan bases to each other. There's
sure.
If he has a good amount of fan base and I have a good amount of fan base, we put those two together, it's a win-win situation. So, I feel like I'm going to bring something to the project. Mike knows that he's going to bring something to the project. So together, we really can't lose. I feel very strongly with collaborating with people where it really is a win-win. I think people a lot of times when they start a Kickstarter, they make a mistake with thinking that their idea can't lose and they involve their friends. The problem is no one knows their friends. You have to be with people that are somewhat established or people that have some sort of a fan base. It really helps.
True. Now, I've asked this of several guests that have been on that have been involved with Indiegogo and Kickstarter. What are your thoughts on bigger name directors using Kickstarter and things like that to get their films made? And I'll use the example of the Veronica Mars movie and Spike Lee and stuff like that. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on bigger named Hollywood people using Kickstarter?
Go ahead, Mike.
Times are tough all around, man. Even the big guys got to use it. I think it's all right. I mean, if the fans want to see it, they're going to donate to it. So people like that, they're doing the same thing we're doing. They just got a bigger reach, and they're going to, hit their larger goals a little more easier than we are. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
Plus, I think that it's important because you're going to see attention drawn to that. So there's people out there that don't know what Kickstarter is. There's people out there that don't know what these sites are. So when you do have a bigger name, it does draw attention to it. And to be honest with you, the same people that donate to Veronica Mars, they're not going to donate to me. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So for them to make all the money that they make, their fans are going to donate because they want to see it. There's movies that I would donate to because I want to see it that are Hollywood-based. If you can put together this guy with that guy and have this guy direct, you can take my money. You know what I mean? So the fans are just speaking. I mean, there is a downside to it. Does it suck that these guys then get a distribution deal and they get to keep your money, but then also at the same time make more money on top of it? Yeah, it does suck, but that's the risk that you take when you're exposing your product to the fans. The fans are going to decide whether or not they want to see it, and if they want to see it, like the Penn Jillette one, the new one with Adam Rifkin, the trailer was slick, man. You know what? And they offer really good perks. That's why they made their money. Penn Jillette's a great name. The guy is everywhere, and he's doing these spots on these TV shows, and he is drawing attention to it. By drawing attention to it, it's exposing people to everything, because then they can say, if they're on that site, how many times do you visit a site and just visit for one thing and then leave? It's not often. Usually you look around. So then people will say, well, I like horror movies. What else is out there? Oh, it's only $25. I got $25. I got $10. And that's how movies get made. So it's the new way of taking Hollywood out of it. Hollywood, going to make their movies regardless of whether or not we're we're not on the map. So, for Kickstarter and bigger names like that to use that stuff, it doesn't matter to me. Like I said, it sucks when they kind of cheat people out and they kind of make additional money on top of it. But I don't think anyone that donates to those films are going to be my clientele. So it doesn't matter so much.
Gotcha. Now with Rabbit Hole, what are you guys hoping to achieve? Are you hoping to get a big mainstream release? Are you looking theatrically? I mean, what is it? What is the statement you guys are looking to make with Rabbit Hole?
Go ahead, Rob.
I don't know if there's really, like my plan normally when I would make a short film would be to put it in film festivals and stuff like that. And you know what, man? I just want people to see it and hope that they like it. And if anything, it gives us another step. We're always looking for another step to take to get to the next level. And if this is a movie that helps us get to the next level where it's not so hard to raise money, or it's not so hard to get a name to come in and film with us, or if it's not so hard to get something, looked at by a distributor, then that's great. I think that that's really what the goal is. The goal is to make something that we want to see, push, our own limits, make the people that are offering to help support the film, make them happy. I don't particularly usually care too much about reviewers. For me, what I've noticed most times is reviews don't necessarily equal DVD sales. What equals DVD sales is word of mouth. When you get the everyday guy that's a fan of your film to tell his friends about it and say, oh, you got to see this, they'll buy another copy, and then his friend will buy a copy, and they'll say, oh, I heard so-and-so talking about that. It's word of mouth, and I do hope that this will wrap up 3 short films for me, and I would like to put them together for an anthology. They're not exactly going to fit perfectly, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So this may end up turning into be a feature film for me. So I never know, but that's right now my focus is to raise the funds and get started, and I'm super eager and super excited.
Very nice. Now, we're in the last 10 minutes of our interview, so I'm going to cover a few more quick points over your guys' careers. Mike, tell us, the trailer for A Dark Place Inside is just, it's stunning. Again, like I had mentioned earlier, your style of filmmaking reminds me very much of Olaf Ittenbach, who directed The Burning Moon and several other extreme films over in Germany. But there's something I can't quite put my finger on it yet. There's a certain slickness to the trailer. What motivated you to make that film, and what are the plans for the release? Are we going to see that in film festivals? Is it just going to go to stores? What are you looking at doing with that?
No, I plan on doing a couple film festivals. We're actually having the premiere in Philadelphia on February 22nd. It's all finished and wrapped up. The movie itself was actually one of the guys over at Chemical Burn Entertainment's ideas. He's like, after I sent him IBS, he said, well, what are you doing next? I said, I don't know. I got this one movie where I might make about killer retarded people. And he's like, well, why don't you make something else? And he kind of steered me towards this direction. He's like, why don't you try to go a little more serious, and maybe we can help you out a little bit. So he kind of sent me a really brief outline. He's like, if you make this, we'll give you a hand, and we'll get you going. So, but he said, he stupidly told me, no humor, no silliness, go a little more legit here. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but after reading it and kind of playing with it, writing it out, I'm like, I am really into this, and I don't know. I keep it, kind of in the same vein of the 70s and 80s movies. I just kind of took away a lot of the silliness, and like I said earlier, I really tried to focus on the production quality, getting the cinematography as best as I can, getting the sound dead on, and really just making a slick-looking movie. And after just watching the final product last week, I'm really happy with how it came out. So I think you guys are going to dig it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Like I said, I've enjoyed the last couple films. Now, Rob, for those that may not know, I was not the first one to do Horror Society Radio. You were actually my predecessor. So for those that didn't know that, Rob used to do Horror Society Live. But you also
back in 2010.
Yeah. And we still have all those on back, so if anyone wants to listen to those, they need to. We still have them. But I wanted to ask you, you do 2 other podcasts. Of course, with the king of old school, you have the Extreme Odd Couple podcast, and then you have the Monster Mania radio with horror convention promoter Dave Hagen. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of talk about, since you have the experience in podcasts, you know, how dynamically different is your show with Steve as opposed to your show with Dave? And what do you find to be the most challenging part about doing a podcast?
Oh boy, Steve and myself are, the name of it is the Extreme Odd Couple, and we are complete opposites. I like horror; he thinks horror is stupid. You know, it's just the truth. You know, but we are very much grumpy old men. Our show has evolved to be, you know, I think we're much smoother, much more polished. We have a good fan base on iTunes, and you know, we talk about life. You know, we talk about the struggles that we have. We both were massively depressed for a while. We both basically talked through our depression while we were there. We're very much open and and real. You know, we'll talk a little bit about wrestling, but it's mostly about other things, like about, you know, why this happens or why that happens, or politics, or baseball, or, you know, countless other things. You know, and we're wimps, you know, and you know, so and we both are controlled by, you know, our wives and our kids and stuff, and you know, it's just realism, you know, and I think that's what's really. And we argue, you know, we bicker a lot. You know, if you follow us on Twitter at Rob Dimension or at King Carino, you'll see the bickering constantly. Like, we're always trying to one up each other, or always trying to shit on each other about something, or you know, whatever the case may be. And when I do Monster Mania Radio, you know, I have to clean up my language, and really the focus of that is to give some horror news, but at the same time talk about the convention. Right now the show's on hiatus, but I do know that Dave texted me actually tonight and said, hey, we're going to get together and do a show to promote, you know, the upcoming Monster Mania in March, because they have Robert Englund and they have the Shining Twins and stuff like that. So really what that will be is it'll be, you know, a rundown of what's going to happen on the show. We'll talk about horror news, and, you know, and Dave and I are very similar. You know, he's very, very old school. I'm old school, but at the same time, I know I have a lot of knowledge about new school stuff, you know, about, you know, new horror films and stuff like that. But we both are, you know, on the fence a lot of times about remakes. Not that we, you know, basically shit on anything, but it's like, if something comes up, it's like, oh, you know, if you're going to do this, it's like, what do you think? And it's like, well, you know, or we'll talk about TV shows like Under the Dome or Sleepy Hollow, which I don't watch any of them, so I'm terrible. But, yeah, you know, like, we'll talk about Bates Motel and stuff like that, and about what we liked and what we didn't like, and we go from there. And it's a good show. You know, Dave has become a really good friend of mine over the last few years. It's funny how I got the job working for him at Monster Mania was that I was a vendor at Monster Mania selling, you know, shit that I had at my comic book shop because I was a horror fan. And I'd always say, like, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. And he would just give me the blow off, like, yeah, okay. And a buddy of his took him to a wrestling show, and Carino and myself were on the wrestling show. And we were wrestling against Al Snow, and we just, like, stole the show, you know. We were just doing our stupid heel shit and, you know, being stupid. And afterwards, he messaged me, like, the next day, and he's like, you know, I really want you to come out to Maryland. I was like, okay. And he's like, if you know, are you interested in doing a Q&A with Robert Englund? I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me? Like, of course. And I had never really done Q&As, but I had talked enough where it wasn't really a situation. And I did a Q&A, and the funny thing is I was so unprofessional. Because I'm doing a Q&A, and I take my phone out, and I kind of, like, lean it towards him, and I click, and I'm tweeting on stage, like, hey, I'm on stage with, you know, fucking Freddy Krueger. It's so awesome. You know, and Robert Englund's just looking at me like, are you kidding me? Like, how unprofessional. But and since then in Maryland, I've been able to host Q&As with, like, John Carpenter, Daryl, you know, Norman Reedus, tons of stuff. Back this past Monster Mania, I did Heather Langenkamp and Cousin It, and, you know, just Kane Hodder and, you know, R.A. Milyoff, and just a ton of guys, you know, that I've been able to talk to and stay in touch with. And it's been great, like I said. So I'm really, you know, I'm very excited that you know, we're going to make a comeback. But podcasting is just being yourself, man. I actually, it's funny. I went back and listened to a Horror Society show that I did, and Jesus, terrible. It's so awful. You open up with like a joke, and like no one gets it except for you, and you laugh for like, oh, come on, dude, seriously. And I think you just become you. You develop a way to handle yourself, and I like it. I like expressing myself and talking about shit, and being real. I like doing that.
Same here. I feel the same way after listening to each one of my shows, but people seem to like it, so you got to be yourself.
I'm so sorry, Mike. I hung up all the airtime. I feel so bad. I think Mike's used to it. He's just because a lot of times we'll talk and he'll just go, okay, all right, So,
well, guys, we're in the last 2 minutes of the show. I want to thank you for being on. Rob, of course, you're always at home at Horror Society. Mike, you know that too. Like I said, we go back, 5, almost 6 years. If there's anything I can ever do to help promote your work, if you guys ever want to come on the show again, you know that you are always more than welcome. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to say to your fans, any websites you want to give out, anything like that?
If they want to follow my work, the best way is Maniac Films on Facebook, or I'm now on Twitter because Rob forced me to get one. They can follow me at Mike O'Mahony, too, on Twitter. IBS is coming out in stores in March. A Dark Place Inside will be touring the Film Fest this year, so be on the lookout for both of them.
For me, if you can go to robdimension.com. I write a lot of nonsense on there. You can also go to you'vebeenrobfilms.com. That's where we'll actually start our crowdfunding on Friday. You'll see it on Facebook. You'll see it on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @RobDimension. Let's see. Anything else? I'm on Instagram. Like I said, if you want to listen to the podcast, you can go to monstermaniaradio.net. You can go to xocpodcast.com or look for them on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. I'm trying to be everywhere, so it's craziness.
Well, it's perfectly understandable. And hey, even though I think I might have offended Steve earlier because he didn't know who I was when I sent the links, please tell him no offense intended. He's still one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and maybe one day I'll be able to run into the three of you somewhere.
He is a miserable prick. Don't apologize. He's a miserable bastard.
Yeah, but you know what? He's still the king of old school, and no one can take that away from him. Guys, thank you for being on. Everybody, keep an eye out for Rabbit Hole. Again, we were talking with Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony, and as soon as the information gets to me about the Kickstarter, it will go up on Horror Society. Guys, thank you for being on, and no problem, guys. I look forward to having you guys on again soon.
Right on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Take care.
And once again, that was our interview with Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony of the coming Rabbit Hole. In just a few moments, we are going to do our DVD review with Night of the Demons, and my co-host, Chris McGibbon, will be with me again for that. In the meantime, we are going to move on to our Metal Blade Spotlight for the night. Chris, you got lucky tonight. I didn't go with the grinding, searing death metal. This is more power metal. And the guy in the spotlight this evening is going to be Monte Pittman. And the name of the CD is The Power of Three, Part 1. We're going to be gone for about 6 minutes, and then Chris and I are going to come back and talk about Night of the Demons. So until then, please enjoy Monte Pittman, The Power of Three, Before the Morning Sun. again, that was Monte Pittman in our Metal Blade Spotlight. The name of the album was The Power of Three, and the name of the song was Before the Morning Sun. We will have a full written-up review of The Power of Three on HorrorSociety.com here in the next couple of days. You should definitely look into Monte Pittman. The man has done some amazing stuff. One of his students was Guy Ritchie for, playing guitar. He's worked with Madonna on stage, and yet he still works on some of the best power metal that I think I've ever heard. But again, welcome back to the Calling Hours on Horror Society Radio. I am joined by one of my fellow podcasters on Horror Society Radio, Chris McGibbon. He and Todd Loya run Creepshow Radio on Thursday nights. So make sure you are tuning in to listen to them. But tonight, I think this is pretty much Chris's segment. We are going to talk a bit about Night of the Demons, which is being released on Blu-ray by Scream Shout Factory. Now, part of the reason I say this is pretty much yours, Chris, is you have the unique experience of being someone who actually worked on helping get this release together. Mm-hmm. So do we just want to talk about the movie first and then go into what you did and the things that went into it? How do you want to do this tonight?
Well, this is your show, so however you initially plan to go over this bad boy, go for it.
All right, we'll talk about the movie. We'll talk about the movie in general first, and then we'll get into all the goodies that you were involved with.
All right.
Once again, it should go without saying that Scream Factory is probably one of the premier companies in the world when it comes to re-releasing the classic movies from our childhood, as it were. For those of you that don't know the story, it is Halloween night, and Angela is throwing a party. But this is no ordinary Halloween party. Everyone's headed to Hull House, a deserted funeral home, formerly the home of a mass murderer. But when the partygoers decide to have a seance, they awaken something evil, and those party crashers have a thirst for blood. Now it's a battle to survive the night in Hull House. Great. I don't even know where to start. A great 80s teenagers having a party where they're not supposed to flick that everyone winds up getting fucked up in. I don't know how else to put it. It's got the campiness of the 80s that I love. It's got the blood and the gore. It's got some hot chicks in it. I mean, come on.
And some hot guys too.
Well, yeah.
For those of you who care about that sort of thing.
It has Linnea Quigley in it, directed by Kevin Tenney. This is just one of those movies, like, I was so happy when I heard that they were putting it out. I couldn't believe it. It's like I said, it's a movie from my childhood. I was 12 when it came out. I didn't see it upon its very initial release, but I saw it very shortly thereafter when it was released to home video. I think the transfer looks amazing. It's not super bright. The movie's made to have that dark quality about it, but I don't feel like you really lost anything, in the filming. I mean, by all means, Chris, please jump in at any time on this.
Well, the movie was originally, of course, it's, it's, like you said earlier, it's one of my favorite movies. It's always one of those movies that ends up in my top 10, top 5, usually in the top 5. It never, it kind of flip-flops, between the number 2 spot and the number 3 spot, depending on what kind of a mood I'm in. And, it's one of those films that, helped shape me as a horror fan. We discussed this on Thursday. It was one of those movies that was one of the first I had seen and really kind of got me going on my sort of obsession with horror. And, it's an ironic thing because the movie is very much molded as a slasher film. It has the distinction of having that slasher cast, of the young virgin who is going to live to the very end, the token black guy the goth, the jock. It's pretty much got something for everybody. It's kind of like a who's who of characters that you kind of pick from. It's kind of like the Breakfast Club in a horror movie, basically. But the thing that this film does that breaks itself out of the slasher mold is the antagonists are the victim's friends who become possessed throughout the film. So as the body count rises, the chances of the survival of our characters get less and less prominent. They have less of a chance of making it out, and it's just a really, in a lot of ways, a very unique film. Has some really standout scenes. The lipstick scene, obviously, being one of the bigger ones. There's some really incredible effects for a film that was done. For a very little money. The projected budget for the film was $1 million, but I was told numerous times that the actual filming budget was probably closer to under $850,000, which for a film like this is really just kind of unheard of. There's a lot of effects in this film. There's a lot going on in it. I mean, even the opening animated title sequence alone, is enough to kind of set it above the fortune. Yeah, well, that was something that they actually touch upon on this disc. How the director didn't want it. Kevin Tenney just said, let's just do black titles, white titles over black credits. It'll do the same purpose, and I can spend this money filming another scene in the movie or something. And they ended up, once he saw it like a rough version of it, he realized that it needed to be in the movie and just ran with it. But yeah, I mean, there's so much in this film that just that really is great for horror fans. I mean, I very rarely meet a person who didn't enjoy this movie to a certain level, or at the very, very least enjoy the film's sequel. I don't think I've ever talked to a horror fan that I said, do you like the Night of the Demons films? And they said, no, I don't like any of them at all. Maybe they didn't like the first one, but they loved the second one. Or maybe they love the first one, but didn't like the second one. Universally, I think everybody hates the third one. I don't know many people that like the third one, but there are a few far in between that do enjoy the third one. Ironically, I actually met a friend of mine who worked at GameStop when I met him, and he had only seen the third one at that point. He loved it. He loved Night of the Demons 3. He thought it was a lot of fun, and it was really fun and cheesy. And I'm like, okay, you need to see the first two. If you've never seen part 1 and 2, if you loved part 3, you were in for a fucking treat. Get ready to get blown away because, yeah.
I wanted your opinion on this because this is one of the few things that I've had people question about the film, and with you having more insight than the average fan would, a lot of people seem to be confused by the fact on who is really the head demon in the movie. Is it Angela or is it Lydia's character? Because she was the one that became initially possessed first.
Well, here's the thing. The idea to throw the party is all Angela. It was Angela's idea to go to Hull House. Angela's the one who said, let's do a seance. Angela's the one who was into the black magic. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of this is one of the things that I think is great about this film. There are a lot of little nods to the supernatural and knowing, characters have things the characters do, the looks the characters have. For example, Angela is wearing a crown with what looks like a chicken's foot coming out of the crown. That's actually an old protection spell for voodoo. There's something to that effect where it's a protection against evil spirits, and she's wearing a cross earring, which is also supposed to ward off evil spirits. And of course, when she becomes possessed in the film, the cross is upside down for the rest of the movie, which is just this nice little touch that today, I don't think anybody would pay attention to doing something like that and realizing that, well, she's a demon, a cross on her is probably not a good thing, let's turn it upside down. But yeah, initially, everyone just kind of thinks, Linnea was the first to be possessed, so why wasn't she the main demon? Well, she was the easiest target at the time for the demon, and I think once the demon got inside of Angela, it was more of a, this is the person I was after kind of deal thing, or this is the person that's going to sort of take, that it was her idea to be here,
Right.
So I mean, the thing with the sequels and Part 2 especially, Linnea's character was supposed to be in Part 2. There was an early draft of the script written with Suzanne returning as a demon, as well as Angela, but they couldn't afford Linnea Quigley at the time, so they had to write her out. And then she says she was never asked, but I think it was more of a cost issue because but I've always looked at Angela as being the lead in the film. I've always looked at her, or lead demon at the very least. I mean, she's the one who gets more of the scenes in the movie than any of the others. She has some of the, the best lines in the film as a demon, also is probably, one of the more, it gets to be one of the more inventive makeups towards the end of the movie when she gets pretty nasty towards the end. Her and Stu get a little crispy towards the end of the movie. I'm trying not to throw out spoilers for those who haven't seen it, but
sure.
I think that audience is kind of small, but at the same time, there's probably still a group of people that have yet to see this film. So
now, a lot of people don't realize that you were involved in a lot of the behind the scenes, in particular the still galleries and stuff for the disc. Kind of tell us how that process went. How did you get involved with that, and how much material you actually had to go through for the finished product?
Oh Lord! Well, the original process was I was in the process of writing a book on the Night of the Demons franchise, which does include the recent remake, because it was a source that I felt hadn't been tapped yet. Nobody had really talked about these films. The DVDs released at the time were very bare bones in terms of features. They didn't have anything on them that gave any kind of behind-the-scenes information on the films, especially the sequels, Part 3 in particular. Nobody really reached out to anyone to find out what happened on that movie. It's one of those things like you look at the three films, not including the remake, of course, and, there's a definite, 1 and 2 hold a certain quality to them. And Part 3 is like this major drop-off, where it's just it feels like a completely different film. It doesn't belong in the franchise, what have you. And, I'm like, there has to be a reason for this. There has to be some kind of explanation that everybody can kind of, come and, defend themselves, basically. That wasn't my sole purpose for wanting to write the book, but that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, to kind of get some of those stories out there. And so I started contacting people from the film, and two of the people I contacted were the film's executive producers, Jeff Jeffrey and Walter Jostin. And they are the copyright holders of the film, and they also have all of the materials, including, the stills, behind-the-scenes photos, et cetera, et cetera. So when I basically, moved out to California for a couple of months to try to get my footing as a filmmaker out there or do something out there. And, I'm back in Massachusetts now, so obviously that didn't work quite well as I anticipated. But what ended up happening was the day I got there, I called Jeff and said, I landed in California. When can we get together? Because he had talked about wanting to get together to kind of go over things. And I knew the film was up for distribution, and that Scream Factory had expressed an interest in it. It was between Scream Factory and Synapse who was going to get Night of the Demons, and obviously Jeff decided Scream Factory was the better choice at the time. And he asked me would I be interested in archiving all of this stuff for them. And I was with my co-host Todd, actually, who I was living with, and we both obviously said yes. We were given 4 boxes on the first run, which mostly consisted of stuff for Witchboard. There was 1 binder with Night of the Demons photos, and that was it. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is it, this is going to be a sad still gallery for Night of the Demons and a glorious one for Witchboard. I hope we find more stuff. And lo and behold, I got a phone call 2 days later, I think, after we finished the first batch. Oh, we've got some more stuff for you. Oh, cool. Great. Go to Jeff's home office, and it's 8 boxes.
Oh, man.
8 boxes filled with slides, photos. I'm not talking 8 by 10s. I'm talking 4 by 6 photos. So these are big, these are old school 80s photo books filled with photos. And I think out of the 8 boxes, 5 were Night of the Demons. So I'm like, oh my God. So it became what is useful and what isn't at that point, because like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of photos, slides up the wazoo, pictures of all the premieres the film had, pictures of all the parties they had. They had a big Halloween party after they made the film. We had pictures of that stuff. The still photographer looks like at one point he just went berserk and started taking pictures of everything because we had all these different angles of different characters and different pictures of different sets, and it was like the same like window but shot 3 different times. You know what I mean? It wasn't. We knew the one shot we could pick out of those 3, the best one would be the one to go with, instead of using all 3 and giving all that stuff to Scream Factory and saying, here you go, here's the longest still gallery in the history of the world. See what you can do with it. So yeah, that's basically how, we kind of came into it. I mean, we sort of just fell in our lap, and Todd and I did all the scanning and got everything on the disc. And we also did, for Witchboard, we did all of the scanning of the video footage that's on that disc, behind-the-scenes material, interviews, outtakes, and a couple other tidbits of cool things that we were able to utilize and give to them. So,
I think it's absolutely an amazing film, and knowing what you did on it, I definitely feel like the disc is a must-buy. So if you're a genre fan, definitely head over to Scream Factory and pick this up. Well, we're at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking. You're always welcome to come on the show at any time. I want to say thank you again to Rob Dimension and Mike O'Mahony for coming on and being my guests this evening. Thank you to my friend Tom Chen out at Scream Factory for sending us movies for giveaway and review. And thank you to my friend Kelly out at Metal Blade.
Before we wrap up, I do have something I have to throw out there. It's going to be in February. We are going to have the writer of Night of the Demons, it is related, so on our show. And we are also going to have a copy of Night of the Demons to give away as well. So I don't have a date for the show yet. As soon as we know more about that, we will post that. Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to throw that out there since it's kind of on topic. So definitely. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Chris, I will talk to you very shortly after the show. We're going to close the show out tonight with our second Metal Blade Spotlight. The name of the band is Body Farm. The name of the CD is The Coming Scourge, and the song is The Coming Scourge. And until next week, everybody, rest in peace.